नमस्कार। अब समाचार विस्तार से। प्रमुख राजनीतिक दलों ने देश की ताजा राजनीतिक स्थिति के बारे में आज अपना विचार विमर्श जारी रखा।
Remember when the news was presented like this? When we all waited for the 6 p.m. news bulletin to know what happened in the US election or at the Commonwealth Games or in some state assembly election? That's long gone now. Several years since the television industry was set up in Noida and journalists began reporting on lost aliens, fake WWE wrestlers and children falling into the bore wells, we have finally come to this point. So from the boring yet accurate Doordarshan news, we now have our entertaining and agenda-driven Sudarshan news. But are you really in the business of news if entertainment and not accuracy is your priority? This disquieting behavior by Indian news channels, not just at prime time but at all times, has got the Supreme Court worried. It has expressed anguish about the hate spewed every day on news channels. It gets serious. The top court also said that the channels are making profits off hate and suggested that Union government make a law regulating hate speech. Stressing the need to have a firm regulatory mechanism against hate speech, the court asked the government of India, and I quote, why it is standing as a mute witness when this is happening. A bench comprising Justice K.M. Joseph and Rishikesh Roy was hearing a batch of 11 writ petitions seeking directions to the Union government to regulate hate speech. Among them were petitions filed against the famous UPSC Jihad show aired by Sudarshan News TV, speeches made at Dharam Sansad meetings, and pleas seeking regulation of social media messages communalizing the COVID-19 pandemic, referring to the vilification of the Tablighi Jamaat in the early days of pandemic in India. After the proceedings began in court, Advocate Ashwin Kumar Upadhyay, representing one of the petitioners, informed the court that hate speech and fear-mongering are not defined under any law. Justice Joseph asked the Government of India for its response and also asked why it was remaining a mute witness. He suggested that the government should come forward to put in place an institution which will be abided to by all. But there is more than one body that was set up for the independent regulation of things that went on air. One of those bodies is the toothless, the News Broadcasters and Digital Association, or NBDA. Except Republic TV, most mainstream channels are a part of NBDA. But that said, there is hardly any regulation, let alone censoring of hateful news on television. For example, when NBDA put a fine of 1 lakh rupees on India TV in 2009, it walked out of it, only for the group to welcome it back by making Rajat Sharma, the editor of India TV, the chairman of NBDA. On the point of levying penalties on news channels, Justice Roy said, and I quote, unless the consequence of infringement comes hard on the person who is violating, how will the message go? You have passed 4,000 orders. Has there been any effect on the 4,000 orders that you have passed? What he said ahead is also important. Hate drives TRPs, drives profit. So this chicken feet kind of a penalty is flimsy. Their pockets will not even get a little tear there. Justice Joseph then said, and I quote, if it is hate speech that we are feeding on, then where is our nation headed? He also said that the political parties will come and go, but the press as an institution has to be saved, and that a nation cannot move forward without an independent and free press. We don't have just one example to point fingers at. The modus operandi is simple: to have a panel full of experts who we only see on television shows and not in libraries. There are so-called religious scholars from various religions and who only spread misinformation and hate. And finally, we have spokespersons of political parties who are trained to overpower the voice of their fellow speakers only. This circus has been an everyday affair for a long time, but the effect that this constant hate has on the public cannot be gauged, as there is no parameter to check the effect of propaganda. Shutting off the television is a wise option in such a scenario, but we can't shut our eyes to what is happening around us. Social realities surrounding us are seeing a shift. Democratically minded Indians are hesitant to express their opinions due to the fear of them being sidelined. The public discourse has shifted from education, jobs, etc. to mandir, masjid and hijab. The damaging effect this magnanimous hate machine can cause is immense. Despite the digital boom, the majority of Indians are still consuming news from the mainstream media. Data from Statista shows that Indian television news was viewed for 70 billion minutes in a week in 2020. This shows the power the media has over the way citizens of India think. Justice Joseph further said that the role of anchor is very important because the moment you see somebody going into hate speech, it's the duty of the anchor to immediately see that he doesn't allow that person to say anything further. Unfortunately, many a times somebody wants to say something but he is muted, the person is not given proper time, he is not even treated courteously.
नहीं देंगे हम, छीन लेंगे ऐसी अभिव्यक्ति की आजादी को।
अब बोलने तो
अंसार राजा जी आप भी बोलिए आज कुछ।
अरे बोलने देंगे आप तभी तो बोलूंगा मैं।
When profit making is at the center of news, hate spewing shows and debates are a really good cost cutting tool. How? They don't require a reporter to go on ground and report. They don't want you to show harsh realities. They just want to create sensationalism at 9 p.m. and hope that the issue remains afloat for the next week so that you can repeat the cycle without questioning the government on unemployment, jobs, hate crimes, etc. The propaganda runs on simple words like jihadi, anti-national, Pakistan, anti-Modi, Tukre Tukre gang and a few more. Only time will tell if the observations made by the apex court are taken seriously by the Indian mainstream media. Although the stand taken by India's Supreme Court might provide hope for some, an Indian Express editorial says that its prescription is fraught and it overlooks the key problem. What is the key problem? One can have enough mechanisms to tackle what is being said by anchors and reporters. But how can you develop a mechanism to stop this?
गोली मारो सालों को, देश के गद्दारों को पीछे तक आवाज आनी चाहिए, गिरिराज जी को सुनाई दे। देश के गद्दारों को, देश के गद्दारों को, देश के गद्दारों को।
Justice Joseph also pointed out that there should be free debate, no doubt about it. But you should know where to draw the line because there is a huge influence, particularly with the visual media. Despite the good intentions of the Supreme Court, hate speech has to be read within the purview of Article 19, which is the freedom of speech. Any law to regulate speech stands the risk of violating letter and spirit of Article 19. As the Express editorial says, nothing can be achieved by lecturing TV channels on the power of love when they have discovered the profit in hate.